So my talk today is entitled Rise Up. And I recognize that, it's the Olympics, and thank you for being here. And I just wanted to let you know about my grandson, our grandson Jackson, because a lot of you have followed him on Facebook. And there's Jackson. He's a steeple racer and steeple chase racer, which is pretty incredible. And he made it to the trials of the Olympics. Yeah. And I was able to be there with the family, and I'll never forget it. It was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. So I bless all these Olympians that are there this week. And Jackson did not qualify for the Olympics. He didn't make the top 5, but he did his best. And that was great. It was great. So I also want to acknowledge, when you have these brother and sister, that yesterday was Kira's birthday, because I know they're watching from California, so I just want to acknowledge both of them. Yeah, happy birthday, Kira. So my title, Rising Up, becoming a luminous warrior. What is that? Becoming a luminous warrior is being committed to growing the heart and the soul and becoming a creative being. It is a call to each one of us, a call to awaken to our true nature and embrace the fullness of life. It's an invitation to step into our power and create a reality that reflects our highest aspirations. It's interesting, Friday I was watching the opening of the Olympics, and I think the president of the whole process there, he got up and he shared something that really touched me. He said, we all belong here. We are all humans, and we're capable of greatness. So I say to each one of us here today, we all belong here. We are humans. We are spiritual beings, and we're capable of greatness, each one of us. He said that there was 206 countries involved, and they all had come there, of course, to compete and whatnot, but to come there in love and joy and peace. And also Dagner Keltner, who's going to be our speaker who wrote the book Awe, November 1st, so I hope you have a ticket for that. Great book. I was reading in the book, and I found something about the Olympics in there. And he said that the Olympics or big games we go to, or maybe even when we come here to church on Sundays, it's a ritual. And it brings forth that sense of participation in each one of us to be able to gather like that. So, a warrior is being a spiritual truth, a light. And I just want to define warrior, because it goes back to a French term long, long time ago on war. Now, I want to just qualify, I know there's many of you who have served the armed forces, and you have been called into war, into conflict. I want to honor you for your dedication to this country, or to perhaps other countries. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But the word war is a state of armed conflict between different national groups. That's the definition of war. But I want to say that I honor all of you as beings of light, as warriors of light. And let me define that a little more. I'm going to a great Native American chief, Sitting Bull. Sitting Bull said this: warriors are not what you think of as warriors. The warriors are not someone who fights. The warrior for us is the one who sacrifices themselves for the good of others. They take care of the elderly, the defenselessness ones, those who cannot provide for themselves, and above all, the children, the truth of humanity. They're there. So, warriors, we are here to support ourselves. not in selfishness, but in the wholeness so we can shine our lights. So a luminous refers to radiance, shining, flowing, full of giving light, and it's a very positive adjective. So a warrior of light, we could say, is a person of hope. And a lot of times people say, well, I have hope. Hope's a stepping stone to that greater expression of spiritual alignment. So if you have hope in your soul, it's good. Don't say, well, I just have hope. Hope is a stepping stone. And it moves beyond the gloom and the doom. And a lot of times, that which is kind of the gloom is kind of the atmosphere that we create. You out there? Isn't that so? Okay. So the great philosopher Pontanus, he said, I do not argue, I contemplate. And as I contemplate, I let fall the seeds of thought into the mirror of mind, which then becomes a matter of matter. The way of the world is the unpeaceful, unwise warrior. The wise warrior is already anchored in the peace and the poise within us. And they are focused on what needs to happen without needing to fight. But unfortunately, many are not anchored in peace and poise. Now, I know all of you are, and you probably have maybe neighbors or distant relatives, perhaps, where you're saying they're not. Am I being honest with you? Yeah. Okay. So conflict, I once had a great teacher say this, one of my Native American blessed teachers and friends. He said, conflict is a choice not to love. Conflict is a choice not to love. But so many times, what takes place for us is anger. For ourselves, let alone others. And anger is defined by a great teacher of mine, Dr. Thomas Hora of existential metapsychiatry. And I'm going to be teaching a class called Angerless Living, Transcendent Regard this September. I just figured it'd be a good time to offer that class. Right? So Dr. Hora said this, a definition of anger is wanting or not wanting. It's kind of a push-pull energy. And I think about little children many times, you know. You give them a game or a ball to play with, and they're doing fine. And all of a sudden, it's my ball. And the other one's trying to get it from them, and they're pushing and pulling with their energy. And that happens so much. It's happened for me. It happens so much for all of us at times. But there is a way to be able to move above that. And it's called transcendent regard. And the title of my class will be Angerless Living, Transcendent Regard. The transcendent regard is being able to transcend that. Now, how do I do that? Maybe I'm trying to transcend. Whoop. So anyway, transcending, a lot of times we can touch our breath. Just touch our breath. Still ourselves long enough to take a deep breath. And allow that breath, because I believe that breath is light. And I have experienced that with many people who have made their transition. That the last physical breath they breathe, many times you can see a stream of light moving. Touch your breath. Take a deep breath. And perhaps say something like, peace, poise. Whatever works for you, and just let it take you upstairs in consciousness, in that field of light. And just be there. Just step aside from it. Just allowing yourself to move with that. So a luminous warrior knows to set down the sword. To set down the sword and pick up the staff. What is the staff? I think we all know what the sword is. But what is the staff? We pick up the staff. The staff is love itself. Bringing that love to our hearts, bringing that peace, assurance, gratitude, and love. And I'm going to say this because I believe it. Jack Castle, who used to sing here many years ago, he sang this song, and I always loved it. If we had enough love, we could melt all the guns. If we had enough love, we could melt all the guns of conflict. William Shakespeare, he wrote, "Go to your bosom and knock there, and ask your heart what it does know." So the heart is also the brain. It is connected to that greater source. So we pick up the sword of love. And we know that love holds together the glue. I have a little story about a gentleman by the name, I say gentleman because now he's a grown man. But when I first experienced him, he was just a young boy. And I had attended his grandmother's passing. Got pretty close to her. She was a great lady. And before she couldn't talk anymore, she shared with me about this grandson. His name was Jamie. And I thought, I hope someday I meet Jamie. He sounds like a great kid. And we sat at the kitchen table of her daughter's home after she had passed to plan her service. Well, this little Jamie character, he just comes in and he takes over. It's like he's going to plan it with me. So I just stayed there with him, and he said, my grandma and I, we had a special saying about love. We had a definition of love. I said, Jamie, what is that? And he said, well, it is stars, popsicle sticks, and macaroni. I thought that was so precious that he had shared that. Of course, I had to ask his permission if I could share it at Grandma's service. Many years ago now, I was out in the lobby. I had shared this story, and this gentleman came up and he said, I'm Jamie. Touched my heart. But love holds us together as glue. Charles Dickens, he wrote, a loving heart is the truest of wisdom. It's the truest of wisdom. We know that wisdom is a light. It is a light. It's golden. And we say you have to get older to have wisdom. We always have wisdom because we're connected in that light. Many times as we grow on the path, sometimes we stumble on the path. Sometimes we feel like we're in reverse on the path. But as we make that shift in consciousness, we recognize that wisdom as a light has always been present. And the wisdom of light, perhaps we could say it's the Christ energy in our world, in our light. Perhaps we could say it's the Buddha energy of light. We could go back to all the great mystics who have ever walked, and they recognize that wisdom was light itself. The great gift of being able to be out in nature and be with the tallest of trees, be with the tiny ones that are just growing and stretching their light towards the sun. Being with the tiniest of creatures, even the chipmunks that are taking over our house. Being with them all is wisdom and light. Do you know that trees can sing? Trees can sing. Plants can talk. So there's intelligence everywhere, that love intelligence. I think it was Hazrat Khan, the great Sufi master, that he wrote that the greatest scripture ever written has been nature. Do you realize that each one of us, we're a part of that greater nature? Maybe we don't have pine boughs. Maybe we're not blooming like a tulip. But we're part of it all. We're part of it all. So love opens doors. It opens doorways for each one of us. So be a luminous warrior of spiritual truth, using the power of love to conquer fear and doubt. Using the power of love to conquer fear and doubt. For we recognize that fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. But it's so easy to get caught up in the fear. The fear of the world, the fear of the nation, the fear here, the fear there. Be able to set it down. Because it drags us into the background that feels uncertain about everything. We need to be in the foreground. It is important that in a time of chaos, and chaos it's an energy, and we have in our lives, we have this flow. We have kind of when we're marching forward, we would call that kind of a staccato beat. And then we have the chaos, and the chaos is kind of whirling, and it's kind of like a soup. Not negative, it's a soup where we can place our thoughts in that soup, and we can change our lives. We can move towards that love. We can have the door open in love. And I know that works for everyone. So when we channel strength from deep down within ourselves instead of the fear of doubt. So instead of having to be like chaos, it's like chaos is a creative energy. So this is what I'm going to affirm. This is what I'm going to know about myself. This is what I'm going to know about my world. This is what I'm going to know about my nation. In God we trust. And so this is an opportunity for each one of us to be that light of the warrior spirit, to be that luminous warrior. So a warrior of light cannot be defined as a person or a character who embodies the qualities. It can be defined as embodying the qualities of courage, honesty, rightful thinking. Or we could say righteous thinking. A lot of times that word righteousness, kind of like, whoa, I got to be okay. Perhaps we could say rightful thinking. What are we thinking? In metapsychiatry, there's a principle, goes like this. Take no thought for what should be or should not be, but seek ye first to know the good of God which already is. I'm going to repeat that. Take no thought for what should or should not be, but seek ye first to behold the good of God which already is. This is embodying that spiritual truth. This is embodying the light. It's moving from, let's say, the little self that's been in fear to that greater place within us. Ernest Holmes said, we shall take the highest thought we have and attempt to enlarge on the consciousness until it embraces a vital concept of reality. Well, what is reality? It's another word we use a lot. I like to break it down. What is real? What is really real? And that's another term in my studies of existential metapsychiatry, which when I say psychiatry, it's breathing the dry bones of psychiatry with spiritual light. But in that, knowing what is really real, it helps us to move to what is real. Is the combat and the fighting that we do within ourselves or collectively the real? No, it is not. It is reality. It is that spiritual light. And I share a little story upon myself. Many years ago, my husband Luke and I, we moved to the mountain. We call it Pine Top. And it was in 2008, I believe, or whenever. And it was kind of when everything had funky loans with the banks and stuff. So we kind of went up there on one of those funky loans. And I knew that we'd have to refinance to get a real solid piece of real estate up there, which we have. But in doing that, it was quite an experience. Because even though we had bulletproof credit and a great loan officer, we would get to the closing table 3 different times and they'd say no. I learned a lot about Wall Street and mountain property. But they would say no. And so it was very discouraging. You know, I was praying on this. Practitioners were praying about it. Nothing was happening. So I went to my little pad of paper and I wrote on it what is really real. Hundreds of times. And I placed them everywhere in my house. I'd open the cover to get a bowl for cereal. What is really real? I go comb my hair in the mirror, there it is. Got in my Jeep, there it was. Everywhere I placed that. I kept saying, what is really real? And that helped me shift to the spiritual. That's what's really real. It helped take me away from the fear and the doubt. And so one day I got a phone call, or my loan officer got the phone call from someone in Minnesota, a banker up there, that said, I'm going to buy this loan. We said, thank you. Oh, what is really real? So I sent him a big bouquet of flowers, and he wrote me a little note, and he said, as a loan officer, I've never had anyone ever send me flowers. But I was so grateful. So what is really real? So our talking point here is to rise up above the challenges with our faith, with our belief, and our perseverance. The true test of a warrior of light is how your stance holds up after any circumstance. Meaning, even after the stormiest weather, a true warrior of light will still reflect the brilliant rays of the manifestation of sun through both of their eyes. For example, Bethany Hamilton, maybe you remember this, she was a surfer, and at the age of 13, nationally rated surfer, she lost her arm in a shark attack. Within weeks, she returned to surfing. I think of Simone Biles, which maybe as we're sitting here, she's doing her routines, that she has recovered from a lot of abuse. And her theme, I found this out after I chose Rise Up months ago, is rise up. To be able to rise up and stand again, and to be able to jump again, jump so high. So many of you have overcome obstacles. So overcoming challenges and obstacles are a natural part of our journey. However, they do not define us. Instead, they provide opportunities to grow and learn. And I've heard people say, oh, I'm so tired of growing and learning. But when we encounter difficulties, we can choose to see them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Going above conditions and effects. And I think we have a slide of my grandson Jackson going above conditions and effects, being able to sprint and to move and jump as high as possible. I remember when Jackson was just a little guy. He started running when he was 10 years old. We had driven to New Mexico, and it was really cold. It was a snowstorm, and I'm thinking to myself, how can we let this kid out of the car to go up to that starting line? It's freezing cold, and we kept him in the car as long as we could to keep him warm. By God, the kid got out there with all the rest of them. They ran the race, got back in the car to get warm. And I said to Jack, I said, what goes through your mind when you're that cold? He said, Grandma, I just go above my head. I always remembered that, to go above our head. A lot of times our thinking tries to describe, oh, it's too cold, or it's too hard, or I can't do this, I've tried too many times. But to go be above that, to be able to move forward, it's so important. So I share this because Jackson wrote this, and I think he adopted some of this from some great runners. What if everyone adopted the mentality of a distant runner? Wonder if everyone adopted the mentality of one of the Olympian participants. Believe and place it in your heart. Run. Running with your heart and conquering with your mind. Push through. Love holds all together. Take one step at a time. Have a personal sense of having to have done your very best. And step up and move forward. Running makes you feel so grateful. So I say the wise, luminous warrior is always anchored in that golden awareness of peace and poise. So rise up. Support and uplift my community, our community, with love and kindness. We're the lighthouse. We're luminous warriors. This is an opportunity to transform our thinking once again into that place of golden light. And to be kind to each other. As Sitting Bull said, to be a luminous warrior, to be a warrior, is to take care of others, to be kind to them, to help them. And I give thanks for all the help and kindness of this community. So I have some questions. What are ways daily that we rise to enlightenment and transcend to embrace spiritual knowledge and weave golden wisdom? That's a question for each one of us. And to be a luminous warrior is to discover the power of fearlessness. Our job is to use love to vanish its opposite. When I was at Hayward Field for those Olympic trials, sat there all day long until the evening, watching these Olympian runners and pole vaulters and jumpers and everybody move to their goal, run with their game. I saw a lot of courage. I felt that if everyone had that courage to step forward, what a world this would be. This community has that courage, Be a luminous warrior is to discover the power of fearlessness. So, do you see yourself as a torchbearer? A torchbearer of truth? Someone who never resorts to deceit and remains steadfast on the path of honesty? So, I just affirmed that I support and uplift my community and family and friends with love and kindness. Can you take that into your hearts? Just affirm that with me. That I support and uplift my community and family with love and kindness. And a new microphone. So prayer is very important on our pathway of being a light bearer. Prayer is a ladder that we climb to realize the luminous light of our being. It is a communion with light. And our blessed practitioners of our community, and they will be down front right after the talk and the offering, available for anyone that wants to be present, for them to hold that light for you. So we climb that ladder and recognize that the nature of consciousness is to rise in love. You got it? So in conclusion, I say to each one of you, beloved, all to rise up is a awakened state, natural state of who you are. It's an invitation into your power. Never give up. Always believe. And as we leave this gathering today, let us take this message of our hearts and our minds, knowing that we have the power to rise up. So set down the sword and pick up the staff of love, gratitude, assurance, and peace. So before I pray, I want to just read this. In the heart's sacred chamber, a lantern softly glows, a beacon in the darkness where the river of spirit flows. It's not a light that's kindled, nor a flame that ever dies. It is the eternal sunrise of the Christ within that lies. This light is not borrowed from the sun or the moon above. It is the radiance, inner brilliance, born of divine love. It's the light of understanding, of compassion, and of grace. It's a testament to the divine in every heart it has placed. The Christ light is the compass that guides us through the night. Through storms of life, it leads us to shores of love and light. It's the star of our existence, the core of our all that is right, the echo of God's whisper, the inner spiritual light. So let us pray Just allowing ourselves to open our hearts so wide, like a sunburst, allowing that light and that love to fill us. For it is the holy truth of who we are. Above, below, and all around about is that spiritual truth. And in this time, in this essence of who we are, we stand tall in that light. With our gentleness and our kindness and with our peace and our assurance, we step forward, filling our homes with that love. If there's been a wound or a woundedness somewhere in our world, take love to it. For it has a way of mending. It has a way of even dissolving scars and bringing us into that place of light, lighting our pathway as individuals, lighting our pathway as a country, United States of America, lighting our pathway as a world, being connected to the cosmic depth of who we are, with love and with light. So I affirm this into being with incredible gratitude, and I declare it into being. And so it is. Amen.